All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. Javon Hargrave done for the year, most likely. Who can the Niners add at defensive tackle? I looked at every practice squad in the league. We'll go through the 6 candidates that I think at least are candidates for the Niners to pluck off other teams' practice squads. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. So get there early. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Krug sent you. And this video is also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, right along the Monterey Peninsula. My good friend Anthony Catania is at 831-521-5264. Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles for all your sports cards and collectibles needs. All right. 49ers defensively have been bad, really bad. They haven't looked good. I think they're like 19th in DVOA defensively. They're even worse in EPA per play. They haven't been good on any three. They're not really good at anything. They've been horrendous at getting off the field on third downs. They're giving up verticals. They can't stop the run. They can't put heat on the quarterback. It's just a collective fail all the way across the board. And now, to make matters worse, they lose Javon Hargrave. Now, Hargrave looked like he was primed for a big year. He actually, I think the decision to go sign Hargrave backfired miserably. I mean, yeah, the Niners went to the Super Bowl last year, and you could make an argument maybe they don't without Hargrave. But I think I would argue that it was a bad move because they took all that money that they were paying a lot of really their quality depth, Samson Ebukam, Azeez Al-Shaair, Emmanuel Mosley, Jimmy Ward, Hassan Ridgeway. I mean, they just depleted all of their depth and got rid of a lot of their kind of underrated run defenders for a guy who rushes the passer inside, who doesn't play the run. And surprisingly, since that trade has been made, the 49ers haven't been as good against the run. In reality, the Niners haven't been very good against the run at the point of attack since they let go of DJ Jones a few years ago. And if they could get DJ back, they should. And that is actually one of the names that came up this week when it was announced that Hargrave is going to be done for the year with his injury, that maybe the Niners could call up Denver and get DJ Jones. Well, if you can do that, that move would take precedent over the guys that I'm going to talk about here. But if that move is not available, and the trade deadline's not till November the 5th, and we're still in September, so there's still a ways to go, and Denver just got to win. Why are they going to get rid of their season right now? You know, there's no real reason for a number of teams to sell off on any players right now in September. But let's talk a little bit about the 6 guys that are out there that potentially the 49ers could pluck off other teams' practice squads that I think could really step in and do a nice job stepping in for the big man in the middle. You know, I mean, I like that the 49ers had the big tackle, the interior tackle who can rush the passer, but unfortunately, it just hasn't been worth it. He hasn't been able to give them, Javon is a nice guy, but he just hasn't been able to give them what they thought they were getting. He's not been a difference maker up front. Whether it's, he looked like he was better this year. Last year, he just didn't look very good at all. Didn't put up the kind of numbers he put up in Pittsburgh. Didn't put up the kind of numbers he put up in Philadelphia. So overall, I don't like the move. But he's out for the year, and it's still a player that's going to, was in his physical prime and was going to play a lot of snaps. So the Niners have to look around for a replacement. It's a hard spot to replace. Now, on their own practice squad, they have T.Y. McGill, and I think and Evan Anderson. Anderson's more of a long-range project. I don't think you'll see them call him off the practice squad. He's trying to lose some weight. He's trying to kind of reproportion his body. He's a 2025 play, in my opinion. So he's not a replacement for Hargrave. T.Y. McGill's a one-gap penetrator. He's 290 pounds, and he can, if you get in a one-gap penetrating type system, he can get up the field. So you can use him a little bit, but he's not a run defender. He's not going to help you against the run. All right, let's talk about the 6 guys that are interesting, that are on other teams' practice squads that the Niners could get today if they really wanted them. One is Marcus Harris, the defensive tackle who played at Auburn. He's on Houston's practice squad. He started at Kansas, transferred to Auburn, 6'2", 285, 290. This is a smaller, quicker defensive tackle. Very, very strong, great hands, very instinctive player. If you're taking the long range view, Marcus Harris is a nice prospect to build up, and which is why he's on Houston's practice squad. They've done a really nice job personnel-wise the last few years. In a year from now, maybe Harris, instead of 6'2", 285, is more like 6'2", 305. And, he doesn't quite have the frame to add that much weight, but I know that's going to be the plan. They're going to try to add some weight, make him a little bit bigger. And then, he's a good football player. He really is. I mean, he was a very good football player at Auburn, very productive. So, undersized guy, and I don't know that he's the fit for the Niners, but, and he's not really a pass rusher. He's more of a run defender. He's a smaller, quicker, strong at the point, instinctive run defender with great hands. That's what Marcus Harris is. So he's one guy that's out there. Another guy that's out there who's a bigger bodied guy is Fabian Levette from Florida State, who's on Kansas City's practice squad. And this kid I really, really like. I mean, this is probably the guy that I would go after of these options. He's a Mississippi kid who's 6'4", about 315 pounds, super long arms, 35-inch arms, huge hands, 10 3/8 inch hands. He started at Mississippi State and transferred. This guy's a true two-gapper. He's got high football character. He plays hard. What he doesn't have is he doesn't have great production. If you look at his college film at Florida State or at Mississippi State, he didn't produce a lot. I mean, he was much more on defense where other guys made tackles. But 6'4", 320, 315, 320 with 35-inch arms and movement ability, he's nice. He's nice, and he looked decent this summer, which is why Kansas City, Brett Veach is a terrific GM. That's why he put Lovett on his practice squad. Poaching him from Kansas City would be probably a smart move. All right, let's move on to number 3 on this list. Matthew Butler. And if you say, yeah, man, that name sounds familiar. I think he had a sack in the preseason against the 49ers when the Niners took on the Raiders. This guy's a little bit older. He's a big-bodied guy, 6'4", 300 pounds. Started off at the University of Tennessee. I would say this is the name that makes the most sense as far as if you're looking for somebody who can play right now, who you don't have to coach, who you don't have to, really, this guy's been in the league. This guy knows how to play. This guy's not raw. He's ready to go. I mean, you could sign Matthew Butler and he could play on Sunday. So that's an interesting name, Matthew Butler of the Raiders. Pretty good football player. And the Raiders, just have an uneven track record of personnel. They make good moves. They make bad moves. They sign off on guys that go other places and thrive. And it wouldn't surprise me if Butler winds up somewhere else and doing pretty well. So that's number 3 on the list. Number 4 on the list is Gabe Hall with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's from Waller, Texas, played at Baylor. This guy's kind of a freak athlete, 6'6", 295, really has movement ability, almost like a gigantic jumbo defensive end. This guy really moves well. He's on the Eagles practice squad. Howie Roseman signed him. He's got a lot of talent. I mean, he's raw. He doesn't play the run real well. I mean, he kind of comes shooting up out of his stance and loses all leverage. But, man, this is a pretty big war daddy at 6'6", 310 or 6'6", 300. I mean, he moves well. I mean, this is a guy who could play a little end. He could play tackle. He can give you a little bit of an interior rusher. He could bat down some passes. He needs to learn to play with more leverage. But he's an interesting name and definitely one of the more talented guys that are out there. All right, number 5 on the list is Zion Logue, who plays on, I think, Atlanta's practice squad. He was at Georgia. Another guy. This might be the best athlete of all these guys. 6'6", 315, 315 pounds, 10-inch hands. He was a 6th-round pick. He played 5 years at Georgia, but only 1 year was he a full-time starter. He's kind of got the defensive tackle version of Robert Beal. Georgia recruits all these guys that are incredible athletes, and then some play and some don't. And, Robert Beal barely played. And this guy barely played at tackle. He only had 52 career tackles and 1.5 career sacks. But what he is 6'6", 315, super athletic, long arms. He's a state of Tennessee prospect who was a high recruit going to Georgia and didn't play a whole lot there and still wound up being a 6th-round draft choice. So as you can tell, when you look at that lack of production and then you look at this kid as an athlete, you can see why somebody took a flyer in the 6th round. Now, do the Niners want 2 guys like Robert Beal who look like Tarzan but maybe play like Jane? Do they want 2 guys that look awesome coming off the bus but, their production's kind of limited? They're going to have to decide. I mean, Chris Kaceric's going to have to look at the film of Zion and decide if he can play in his system. And the 6th guy on the list, I think, is the most interesting. And this is the guy that I would go after, okay? And I said I'd go after Lovett. And Lovett's, very intriguing, long arms. But this guy's even more intriguing. The Chargers went into, the Niners last year had Alfredo Gutierrez. He was part of the NFL International Player Program, pathway to the NFL. This year, it's Isaac Alarcon. So the Niners have had guys that are, I don't want to say not NFL players, but Alfredo Gutierrez is probably never going to play in the NFL. And Alarcon is only slightly better. He's just kind of a, if you got 53 guys on the roster, he's guy number 53. Well, the Chargers found out of the NFL Africa camp, CJ Okoye. And this guy has to be seen to be believed. He was the MVP. He kind of bust on the scene. The NFL had their NFL Africa camp in 2022. And this kid was the MVP of that camp. He's 6'6", he's 315 pounds. He played no college football. He goes by CJ Okoye. His name is Bazil Shijoke Okoye. And he had a sack in the final preseason game, and they gave him the game ball. The Charger players went crazy. To say this kid is raw doesn't speak to it. He didn't play college football. This guy's been playing football for like 45 minutes. But he's 6'6". He's 315 pounds. He's light on his feet. He's pretty smart. He's getting better by leaps and bounds. And if Chris Kaceric really feels like he could coach this kid up, you might get this kid, put him on the practice squad. Okay, so let's say you promote T.Y. McGill from the practice squad for a month before the trade deadline as you're contemplating your options. I think that's what the Niners are going to do. They're going to put Hargrave on the IR. They're going to promote T.Y. McGill to the active roster. But while this is going on, the Niner pro personnel people are going to be scouring the lists that I just scoured last night, looking for who is the available defensive tackle that's on another team's practice squad that we can bring here, put him on the active roster, and he might actually be able to play for us. Well, those are, I think, the 6 best names. And of this group, Marcus Harris is a really good football player who's just a little undersized. He's 6'2", 285, 290. You could play him right now, and he's smart, and he'll try hard, and he's a solid player. If you needed a starter, if you didn't have T.Y. McGill, I think I'd sign Marcus Harris or Matthew Butler. Those 2 guys are ready to play right now. If I'm dreaming the long-term dream, I'm maybe going Fabian Lovett or Gabe Hall, just because Lovett, as I said, incredible athlete, 35-inch arms, and this guy's a true 2-gapper. I mean, he's a real plugger inside. If you wanted more of a pass rusher, maybe you'd go for Gabe Hall from Baylor, who's on the Eagles practice squad. And then, the gamble on traits and upside is Zion Logue from Georgia, who's on Atlanta's practice squad. He's got, if they all were standing here in the room, if you just went body beautiful and who looks the part, you'd go with the kid from Georgia, Zion Logue, because he really does look the part. But then when you really look at, kind of back away and look at this picture and who these 6 prospects really are, CJ Okoye is going to get better at a rate that is unbelievable. And what I saw in the preseason, you're looking at a 6'6", 315, 320-pound guy that moves really well, that has, a very strong upper body. And if you believe that you can coach him up, and if you really think that Chris Kasarik is this awesome D-line coach, maybe you want the best. CJ Okoye is raw moldable clay. Maybe you want the best raw prospect and give that guy to Chris and say, Chris, make something of him. I don't think Okoye is not ready to go. I mean, he's not ready to play. It's not like you can sign him and he'll play against the Patriots. He will not play against the Patriots. He's maybe one of the most raw players on any practice squad in the entire league. But the talent and the upside is so unbelievable that this might be the time to just go with McGill, start dialing around for trades, and then pluck this kid off of the practice squad and see if you can get him up on game day. See if you can get him. I mean, see if you can squeeze him onto your roster. The Okoye upside is massive. I mean, if you coach this kid up and a year from now you could have, the same way the Dallas Cowboys picked Leon Lett out of Emporia State and watched him evolve into this monster. This kid's super raw, but he's got that Leon Lett kind of thing going on. He's 6'6", he's 315 to 320 with light feet. He's got natural strength, natural ability, natural quickness. He's exciting. And the Chargers, feel like they have a developmental player. Now, you can't take him from their practice squad and put him on your practice squad, so you're going to have a roster spot. And I don't know that you want to go with a roster spot with somebody so raw. But that's a name, CJ Okoye, incredibly raw player from the Chargers, but man, the upside, I mean, you could take this guy, put him on your active roster, develop him. You could wind up with a Pro Bowl defensive tackle in a year or two. He looks really, really intriguing with a ton of upside. So those are your choices if you're looking for somebody off the practice squad. I mean, the Niners always have the trade possibility. There's always the free agent possibility. I haven't even explored who's in the free agent market. But if you just wanted to pluck somebody, a young player off another practice squad that has some upside, Marcus Harris, Fabian Lovett, Matthew Butler, Gabe Hall, Zion Logue, and CJ Okoye. Those are the names. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueger Show. Thanks to Sharp Corners for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krueger Show on YouTube.